They'll strangle your sisters while you watch if you scream again. Cardinal Matteo's hand covered Isabella's mouth. His other arm locked around her waist as two guards dragged her down stone steps she couldn't see. The wedding dress they'd forced her into 3 hours ago was already torn at the shoulders. Blood from her split fingernails left marks on the walls. "I'm sorry," he whispered against her ear. "I'm so sorry. But they'll kill everyone I love if I don't deliver you to the 13th door." Above them, church bells announced her marriage. Below, in chambers carved before Christ was born, 13 candles waited. If you want to know what happens when ancient rituals hide inside modern religion, subscribe now. When you reach the moment that makes your blood run cold, comment your city. Let's see how far truth can travel before the Vatican notices. So, 3 weeks earlier, Florence. "Isabella, your father wants you downstairs." Maria's voice was wrong. Too careful, like she was talking to someone dying. Isabella set down the embroidery she'd been pretending to work on. "What happened?" "Just come." The parlor felt too small when she entered. Her father stood by the fireplace, back rigid. Her mother sat in the corner chair, rosary already moving through her fingers. 2 men in papal uniforms flanked the doorway, hands resting on sword hilts. "Papa?" He didn't turn around. "Tell her." The taller guard produced a scroll. "Isabella Santori, you've been selected as bride to Cardinal Matteo della Rovere, nephew to His Holiness Pope Innocent VIII. The wedding will take place October 31st in Rome. You depart May 1st. 9 days." The room tilted. Cardinals don't marry. This one does. The guard's face showed nothing. "Papal dispensation. Already signed." "Then I refuse." "If you refuse," the guard consulted a second document. "Lorenzo Santori's trading licenses will be revoked on May 2nd. Your family's property will be seized for unspecified crimes against the church. Your father will be arrested. Your mother and sister will be relocated to a convent in..." He paused, looked up. "Well, they don't usually come back from that particular convent." Her father's knuckles were white against the mantelpiece. "You're threatening my family because some cardinal wants a bride. There are thousands of girls in Italy. The Holy Father doesn't explain his selections, he makes them." The guard rolled up the scroll. "May 1st, dawn. A carriage will arrive. Bring whatever you want to keep. You won't be returning to Florence." They left. The door closed. Nobody moved. "Papa, tell them no." "I can't. Then I'll run. I'll leave tonight. They'll never find..." "They will." He finally turned. His eyes were red. "Isabella, I spent today calling in every favor I have. Every merchant who owes me money. Every banker I've helped. Every noble whose daughter I arranged a good marriage for." His voice cracked. "Not one of them will help us. 2 of them wouldn't even see me. One crossed himself when I said your name and closed his door in my face." "Why, what's happening?" Her mother spoke up, voice hollow. "Tell her, Lorenzo. She deserves to know." "Know what?" Her father crossed to the sideboard, poured wine with shaking hands, drank it in one swallow. 50 years ago, my grandmother's sister was chosen for a Vatican wedding. Same thing. Sudden summons, cardinal groom threats if we refused. She went to Rome." He poured more wine. 3 months later, they sent back her jewelry and a note saying she died of fever. No body, no funeral, just gone. The cold started in Isabella's stomach and spread. "My mother's cousin 25 years ago. Same thing. Vatican wedding." All Hallows Eve disappeared. The family asked questions, hired investigators made noise. He drank again. They all had accidents. Within 6 months, 7 people in that family were dead. "You're saying the Vatican kills the brides?" "I'm saying girls who go to these weddings don't come back, and families who ask too many questions have very bad luck." Maria grabbed Isabella's hand. "Then we all run. Tonight. We have cousins in Venice. They'd find us." Their father's voice was flat with certainty. "The church has eyes everywhere, and the consequences wouldn't be arrest anymore. They'd be immediate." Their mother's rosary clicked faster. "There has to be something, some way to protect her. If there was, don't you think the other families would have found it?" The words hung in the air like poison. Isabella's mind raced. "Then I'll be smarter than they were. I'll figure out what happens. I'll find a way to survive." Her father laughed, a sound like breaking glass. That's what they all said. The next morning, Isabella went to see someone her parents didn't know about. Francesca Bardi lived above a printer's shop in a part of Florence where respectable merchants' daughters didn't go alone. She was maybe 40, maybe 60, impossible to tell. Her apartment smelled like old paper and something sharper. Ink. Secrets. "Vatican wedding," Francesca said, before Isabella could finish explaining. "You're 23. "How did you know?" "Because they always choose 23-year-olds, every 50 years, like clockwork." She moved to a shelf, pulled down a leather journal. "I've been tracking these for 2 decades. 14 brides in the last 700 years. None of them ever seen again." "But why? What happens to them?" "That's what I've been trying to figure out." Francesca opened the journal. Pages covered in tiny handwriting sketches dates. "The ceremonies are always on All Hallows' Eve, always in the underground chambers beneath St. Peter's. Always 13 witnesses, and always," she stopped. "Always what?" "The brides all have the same birthday. Did anyone tell you that Isabella's blood turned to ice?" "What's the date?" "March 15th. That's my birthday." "Of course it is." Francesca wasn't surprised, just sad. "They don't choose randomly. They're looking for something specific. Women born on the Ides of March reaching their 23rd year in families with no title but enough money to make the threats effective." "But why those requirements?" "I don't know, but my grandmother was one of them. She kept a diary." Francesca pulled out another journal. This one older page is brittle. "Want to know what her last entry says?" Isabella nodded, though every instinct screamed to run. Francesca read, "They keep calling it a wedding, but it's not. It's a transfer. I saw the frescoes in the underground chapel. I understand now what they need us for. If anyone reads this, know that I didn't die of fever. I died because I tried to run after I saw—" Francesca looked up. The entry ends there. Ink splatter suggests she dropped the pen suddenly. This journal was found hidden in her room after they claimed she died. A transfer of what? She doesn't say, or couldn't before they stopped her. Francesca closed the journals. "But I can tell you this. The ceremony requires 13 witnesses, 1 bride, and something old enough that the Vatican built St. Peter's on top of it to hide it." Isabella's hands were shaking. "Can you help me? Is there any way to survive this?" Francesca was quiet for a long moment. Then she went to a small wooden box, opened it, removed something wrapped in cloth. "This belonged to my grandmother. It's the only thing they sent back." A silver medallion, tarnished with age. 13 marks arranged in a circle around a symbol that definitely wasn't Christian. "What is it, May? Protection, maybe. Or just a reminder that you're being fed to something that's been hungry for a very long time." Francesca pressed it into Isabella's palm. "Keep it hidden. Don't show anyone, especially not the clergy. And if you get a chance to run, even if they threaten your family, even if they promise you'll damn everyone you love, run anyway." "But my family will die if you go, and die if you don't." "At least if you run, you're alive to avenge them." Francesca's eyes were hard. "The Vatican is counting on you being a good daughter who sacrifices herself. Don't give them what they want." Isabella left with the medallion burning against her skin and questions burning in her mind. But she didn't go home. Not yet. She went to the cathedral library. The clerk knew her. She'd spent years reading here when other girls were learning to manage households. He barely looked up when she requested records of Vatican weddings. "We don't have those. Church ceremonies aren't kept in public records." "Then give me whatever you have about All Hallows' Eve ceremonies, historical references, anything involving October 31st and papal events." He disappeared into the stacks, came back with 3 books, all ancient, all restricted to clergy. He set them down with a pointed look. "I'm not supposed to let these leave the locked shelves." Isabella understood. "I'll return them today." She read for 6 hours. Most of it was useless harvest festivals, saints' days, local traditions. Then, in a chronicle from 1387, she found it. On the eve of All Hallows, the Holy Father performed the ritual of transference in the chambers beneath. 13 cardinals witnessed. The girl's selected name, withheld for her family's protection, fulfilled her sacred duty. God rest her soul. May the next 50 years be prosperous. The next 50 years. Isabella's hands clenched. The book continued. This ritual, carried down from times before our Lord walked among men, ensures the continuity of papal authority. The girl born on the Ides as required becomes the vessel through which power passes from the dying to the chosen. It is a sacrifice most holy and most necessary. The Church protects this secret as it must, for the faithful would not understand the price of their salvation. Vessel, transfer, sacrifice. Isabella read it 3 times, each word settling like stones in her stomach. They weren't choosing her for a wedding. They were choosing her to be used up, hollowed out, made into a container for something that had nothing to do with God. She returned the books, went home. Her family was at dinner trying to pretend everything was normal. Where have you been? Her mother's eyes were swollen from crying. Research. Isabella, I know what they're going to do to me. She set her hands on the table, steady despite the fear. And I know I can't stop it, but I'm not going to be their perfect victim. I'm going to fight. Her father looked up, hope and horror mixing on his face. How? I don't know yet, but I have 9 days to figure it out. Sis. She had 6. On day 7, her grandmother arrived. Nonna Teresa walked in like a storm, all fury, despite being 73 and barely 5 feet tall. She took one look at Isabella and said, "You look just like Juliana did. Same eyes, same stupid, brave face." "Mama, please," Isabella's mother started. "No, she needs to hear this, all of it." Teresa sat down heavily. "Juliana was my cousin, my best friend. We grew up together, shared secrets, promised we'd find husbands in the same city so we'd never be apart." Her voice went rough. Then the summons came. She was 23, March 15th birthday. Sound familiar? Isabella nodded. She didn't want to go. God, she fought, screamed, begged, tried to run twice. But they threatened to burn down her father's shops with the family inside. So she went. Teresa's hands were fists. The last time I saw her, she grabbed my wrist and said, "If I disappear, don't let them forget. Don't let them say I died of fever. Make noise. Make them nervous." So I did. I asked questions. I hired men to investigate. I went to Rome myself and demanded to see her body. What happened? I got close. Too close. I found a priest who'd been at the ceremony, old and dying, willing to talk. He told me... She stopped, swallowed hard. He told me the bride doesn't die. Not exactly. She becomes something else. A door that opens one way. Power goes in, nothing comes out. The room was silent except for the fire crackling. The night before I could get him to write it down, he disappeared. 2 days later, they found him in the Tiber. Drowned, they said. Accident. Teresa looked at Isabella with eyes like flint. They found me the next morning. 2 papal envoys, very polite, very cold. They strongly suggested I return to Florence and stop asking questions. For my family's safety. But you're telling me now. Because you're already marked. They know I know. Doesn't matter anymore. She pulled something from her pocket. A letter, old and stained. Juliana sent this 3 days before she died. It arrived 2 weeks after they declared her dead. Make of that what you will. Isabella unfolded it with shaking hands. The writing was her grandmother's cousin's. She'd seen samples in old family documents. But this writing was different. Frantic. Letters crashing into each other. Teresa, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. They think I'm asleep, but I stole a pen from the nun's pocket. Listen carefully. The ceremony isn't a wedding. It's a feeding. Something lives under the Vatican, something old, something that was there before Peter was martyred. The Church built St. Peter's on top of it to contain it, but it made a deal. Every 50 years on the eve when the veil between worlds thins, they feed it. A girl born on the Ides, exactly 23, with no noble title but enough family to ensure compliance. We're chosen because we're powerless enough to disappear, but valuable enough to motivate. I've seen the chamber. I've seen the 13th door. I've seen what waits beyond it. Teresa, it's still alive. It's been alive for thousands of years. And it's hungry. Tell my mother I love her. Tell my father I'm sorry. And if another girl is ever chosen, tell her this: don't go to the 13th door. No matter what they promise, no matter what they threaten. Death is better than becoming a... The letter ended mid-word. Isabella's hands shook so badly the paper rattled. This can't be real. Read the back. She flipped it over. More writing, different hand. Older, Latin. She translated slowly. The girl was found writing this heresy. She has been corrected. Her family will be informed of her illness. Dispose of this evidence. But someone hadn't disposed of it. Someone had saved it hidden, it smuggled it out of Rome and into Juliana's family's hands. Who gave you this? Isabella whispered. It was pushed under my door the night after the priest drowned. No note. Just the letter. Teresa's voice was hard. Someone in the Vatican wants the truth to survive, but not enough to stop the ritual. 4 days left. Isabella couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Her mother kept trying to comfort her with useless words. Her father had stopped talking entirely, just sat in his study, staring at account books he wasn't reading. Only Maria refused to accept it. We're running, she said on day 3. I don't care what they threaten. We're taking the horses tonight and riding until the horses die, and then we're stealing new ones. They'll catch us. Then at least we tried. Isabella almost agreed. Almost. But then she thought about the letter. Don't let them forget. If she ran, she'd die alone on some road and no one would ever know what happened in the Vatican's underground chambers. Another girl would be chosen in 50 years just as ignorant, just as helpless. I'm not running, she said. I'm going to survive, and then I'm going to burn this secret down around their ears. How? I don't know yet. But on day 2, she figured it out. Or the beginning of it anyway. She went back to Francesca's apartment. You said you've been tracking these weddings for 20 years. Why? What are you trying to find? Francesca looked at her for a long moment. Then she pulled back her sleeve. Scars covered her forearm. Not random, not accidental. Deliberate cuts forming symbols. The same symbols from the medallion. Because 50 years ago, my mother was chosen, Francesca said quietly. And I was born 7 months after she supposedly died of fever. Isabella's breath caught. Someone got her pregnant before the ceremony. Someone broke the rules. The ritual requires a virgin bride born on the Ides. Those are the exact requirements, very specific. My mother wasn't a virgin anymore. So the ritual failed. Francesca's smile was bitter. They killed her anyway, of course. But not before she managed to get a message out telling her sister that she'd born a child. Me. So you survived because your mother broke the rules. My mother survived the ceremony because she broke the rules. She lived another 3 months before they figured out why the ritual hadn't worked and silenced her permanently. But 3 months was enough to confirm I existed. Francesca rolled down her sleeve. I've spent my whole life trying to figure out how to break this cycle, and I think I found it. Tell me. You have to let them start the ceremony. Let them think it's working. But at the moment of transfer, right when the power moves from the dying pope to his successor, right when you're supposed to become the door, you have to refuse. Not physically, verbally, out loud, in front of all 13 witnesses. Refuse what? Whatever they ask you to accept, whatever vow they tell you to speak. Say no. Francesca leaned forward. My mother's message said the ritual requires consent. Not marriage consent, metaphysical consent. The girl has to agree to become the vessel. Usually they break you down so much, scare you so much, that by the time you understand what's happening, you're too terrified to refuse. You say the words like a good girl, and then... She made a gesture like something hollowing out. Gone. But if I refuse, the ritual breaks. The power has nowhere to go. And in the chaos, maybe you get a chance to run. They'll kill me. They'll kill you anyway, Isabella. This way, at least you die human. The morning of May 1st came too fast. Isabella woke in darkness, heart already racing. Maria was in bed beside her. She'd refused to sleep in her own room, as if staying close could somehow protect her sister. "Bella," Maria's voice was small. "I'm awake. I have something for you." Maria pulled a knife from under her pillow. Small, sharp, easily hidden. "If you get a chance, use it. Throat or stomach. Make it count." Isabella took it hand steady. "If I don't come back, you're coming back." "Maria, you're coming back because you're the smartest person I know, and the bravest and the most stubborn. And I'm going to wait every single day until you walk through that door again." Maria's voice cracked. "Promise me you'll try." "I promise." They dressed Isabella in silence. Her mother had sewn a travelling gown, fingers bleeding from working through the night. Her father stood in the doorway, unable to watch. The medallion went under her bodice. The knife went in her boot. The letter from Juliana she'd copied in her own hand went sewn into the hem of her dress. Evidence, testimony, truth. If she died, someone might find it. Dawn broke grey and cold. The carriage arrived exactly on time. Black lacquered wood windows curtained no visible driver. Her family stood in the courtyard. Her mother was crying, trying not to. Her father looked 10 years older. Maria's face was set like stone. A guard opened the carriage door. "It's time." Isabella turned back once. "I love you." They didn't answer. Couldn't. She climbed into darkness. The door closed. A lock clicked. The carriage lurched forward. Isabella counted to 10, letting her eyes adjust. Then she examined every inch of the interior. The windows wouldn't budge. The door was sealed. The walls were solid. No escape. But she wasn't alone. A figure sat across from her, so still she'd missed it in the darkness. Hooded. Silent. Breathing shallow, like someone trying not to be noticed. "Who are you?" No answer. Isabella pulled the knife from her boot, held it ready. "I asked you a question." The figure moved slightly. Old hands emerged from the sleeves, scarred and twisted. Then the hood fell back. A woman, maybe 35, maybe 60. Her face was wrong somehow, like it had been broken and reassembled by someone who'd never seen a human before. One eye was clouded white. Her mouth was sewn shut with thick black thread. Isabella's knife clattered to the floor. The woman reached into her robes, pulled out a piece of paper, held it up. Written in crude letters, "I was the last one." Isabella's blood turned to ice. 50 years ago." The woman nodded. "You survived." Another nod. Then she held up the paper again, flipped it over. "Not survived. Escaped. There's a difference." She pulled the paper back, scribbled frantically, held it up again. "They cut out my tongue so I couldn't tell. Broke my hand so I couldn't write. But I learned. Took me 30 years to remember how to hold a pen." "Why are you here?" The woman wrote faster now, as if time was running out. "To warn you. The ceremony works because they make you think you're powerless. Make you believe you have no choice. But there's always a choice, even if it kills you. Francesca said I need to refuse, at the moment of transfer. Is that true?" "Yes, but it's harder than she told you. They don't just ask once, they ask 13 times. Once for each witness. You have to refuse 13 times while something tries to hollow you out from the inside." "What happens if I succeed?" The woman's good eye fixed on her. "I don't know. I said yes on the 7th asking. Been living in hell ever since." She flipped the paper one more time. "The frescoes in the underground chamber show what you'll become if you fail. Look at the last panel, the one they always hide behind a curtain. That's the truth they don't want you to see before it's too late." The carriage hit a bump. The woman grabbed Isabella's wrist, pulled her close. Her breath smelled like old churches and older death. She pressed something into Isabella's hand, another piece of paper folded tight. Then she was gone. Not disappeared, gone. The seat across from Isabella was empty, like no one had ever been there. The papers in her hand remained solid and real. But the woman had simply ceased to exist. Isabella unfolded the new paper with shaking hands. A map, crude but clear. the Vatican's underground chambers marked with symbols, and in the center, a 13th door drawn in what looked like dried blood. Written beside it, "This is where they'll take you. Memorize the way out. You'll need it." The carriage rolled on through morning light. Isabella couldn't see carrying her toward Rome and answers that might kill her. She memorized the map, burned every line into her mind. Then she tore it into tiny pieces and let them scatter from her bodice, hoping someone somewhere would find them and wonder. 3 hours later, the carriage stopped. The door opened. A different guard. Same dead eyes. "Welcome to Rome." Isabella stepped out into a narrow street stone, pressing close on all sides. Behind them, St. Peter's dome rose like a mountain. This way. Not toward the grand entrances, toward a servant's door, small and old, set into ancient stone. The guard knocked 3 times, paused twice more. The door opened. A woman in a nun's habit stood there, maybe 30, with eyes that had stopped seeing years ago. Empty. Completely empty. "Isabella Santori," the nun said. Flat. Mechanical. "Yes. Follow me. Don't speak. Don't stop walking. Don't look at anything directly. If you break these rules, I can't help you." The guard stayed outside. Isabella followed the nun into darkness. The door closed behind them with a sound like a grave ceiling. They walked down, and down, and down. The air changed, got colder, got older. The walls were stone carved before concrete existed. They passed doors, dozens of them. They passed a room where something was crying. They passed a chamber where voices whispered in languages Isabella didn't recognize. "What is this place?" Isabella whispered. The nun stopped so abruptly Isabella almost crashed into her. The nun turned, and for just a second, something human flickered in those dead eyes. "This is where the church keeps its oldest secrets," she whispered back. "The things that were here before Christ. The things they built cathedrals on top of to hide." Her voice dropped lower. "And the things they feed to keep them quiet." "Feed what?" But the nun was already walking again, faster now. They turned a corner into a circular chamber. 12 doors evenly spaced. And in the center, a 13th door carved with symbols that hurt to look at directly. The nun produced a key. "Black iron, old as sin." "Wait," Isabella said. "Before we go in, who are you? How did you end up here?" The nun's hand trembled on the key. "I was chosen 75 years ago." Isabella's heart stopped. "That's impossible. The ritual is every 50 years. The ritual is every 50 years. The failures stay forever." The nun's dead eyes found hers. "I refused at the 9th asking. Almost made it. They couldn't complete the ritual, but they couldn't let me leave either. So she touched her own face. "They made me useful in other ways." "You've been here for 75 years? Time moves differently below. Some days feel like minutes, some minutes feel like decades." The nun turned the key. "I'm telling you this so you understand. Death isn't the worst thing that can happen in these chambers. Choose carefully which you prefer." The door opened. The room beyond was circular walls covered in frescoes. Candles everywhere, hundreds of them, making shadows dance. A bed against one wall, a table, a wardrobe, and on every surface painted in excruciating detail the history of the ritual. Women in white, men in robes, and something vast and dark reaching down with too many hands. Isabella made herself look at each panel, made herself see. The first showed ancient priests making a deal with something that shouldn't have names. The second showed the first feeding, the first bride, the first transfer. The third showed what came after the girl's body, standing empty hollow, a door standing open. The fourth panel was curtained. "Don't," the nun whispered. "If you see that one now, you'll lose your mind before the ceremony even begins." "I need to see." "Isabella." She crossed to the curtain and ripped it down. The painting showed the 13th asking, the moment when the girl finally broke and said yes. But it didn't show her dying or transforming. It showed something worse. It showed her becoming aware that she was being hollowed out, aware that something was pouring into the empty spaces. aware that she would exist like this forever conscious, trapped unable to speak or move or die, a door standing perpetually open while something ancient used her body as a gateway. The painted girl's eyes were the worst part, wide, knowing, screaming without sound. Isabella turned away and vomited. The nun caught her, held her steady. Now you understand why most girls say yes by the seventh asking. It's not cowardice, it's mercy. This way it happens faster. How long? Isabella couldn't finish. Until you stop being you. Depends on how strong you are. The last girl lasted 3 days in full awareness before her mind finally shattered. They tell me she's still in there somewhere, screaming. The nun's voice was gentle now, almost kind. It's been 11 years. They use her for smaller rituals now, keeping wards strong, binding lesser things. She's very useful. Isabella straightened, wiping her mouth. Her mind was racing, cataloguing every detail. The room had one door, no windows. The frescoes covered every wall except there. Behind the wardrobe, a seam in the stone barely visible. She filed it away. "What's your name?" Isabella asked the nun. "I don't remember anymore. They call me Sister Caterina because I take care of the chambers." But that's not who I was. Her dead eyes glistened. "I haven't heard my real name in 75 years. Tell me, I'll remember it." The nun's face crumpled. "Beatrice. My name was Beatrice Marchesi." "Beatrice." Isabella gripped her hands. "If I survive this, if I get out, I'm going to tell everyone what happened to you. I'm going to make them say your name. You won't survive. No one does. Then I'll die trying. And someone will find my body and wonder why I fought so hard." Beatrice pulled her hands away. "You have 6 months until October 31st. You'll stay in this room. I'll bring you food. Don't try to leave. The guards will kill you. Don't try to hurt yourself. They'll heal you and make it worse. Don't talk to anyone except me." She backed toward the door. "And for God's sake, don't look at that fresco anymore. It won't help. It'll just make the waiting unbearable." She left. The door locked. 13 separate locks, Isabella counted. 13 separate keys. She was alone in a room that showed her exactly what was coming. Isabella sat on the bed and pulled out the knife Maria had given her. Tested the edge. Sharp enough. Then she put it away. Not yet. She had 6 months to plan, 6 months to learn every detail of this place, 6 months to figure out what Francesca and Beatrice and the woman in the carriage had tried to tell her. The ritual required consent. 13 askings, 13 refusals. She could do 13. She had to. Because the alternative was that fresco, that awareness, that eternity. Isabella stood and began examining every inch of the room systematically. The wardrobe held white dresses, all identical. The table drawers were empty. The bed was bolted down. But behind the wardrobe, when she pushed it aside, the seam in the stone was wider than she'd thought. Not a crack. A hidden door sealed with wax and prayer. She pressed her ear against it and heard something on the other side. Water. Moving water. A way out. Maybe. If she survived long enough to use it. Isabella pushed the wardrobe back and lay down on the bed staring at the ceiling. Somewhere far above Rome was going about its day. Her family was mourning. Maria was refusing to accept she was gone. And here in chambers older than Christ, Isabella Santori made a decision. She wasn't going to be their perfect victim. She wasn't going to break at the seventh asking. She wasn't going to make it easy. She was going to fight every single second. And if she lost, when she lost, she was going to make sure her resistance left marks. Evidence questions, the candles flickered. The frescoes watched. And deep below, deeper than even these chambers, something ancient felt a new sacrifice arriving and began to wake. 6 months until All Hallows Eve. 6 months until 13 candles lit in a circle. 6 months until Isabella discovered whether death or awareness was the kinder fate. She closed her eyes and began counting. 1, 2, 3. Building her strength, memorizing her rage. When they came for her on October the 31st, she would be ready, not to survive, but to make them regret choosing her. The first week, Isabella counted everything. 13 locks on the door. Beatrice turned each one precisely always in the same order. Left to right, top to bottom, like a ritual inside a ritual. 47 candles in the room replaced every 3 days. The frescoes had exactly 208 figures painted across them. She counted twice to be sure. Numbers kept her sane. Numbers were concrete when everything else felt like drowning. Beatrice brought food twice daily, morning and evening. Isabella guessed, though, without windows, time became elastic. The first time she tried to speak, Beatrice put a finger to her lips and pointed at the ceiling. Isabella looked up. Small holes drilled into the stone, invisible unless you knew to look for them. They were always listening. So Isabella stayed silent and ate her bread and watched Beatrice's hands instead. The way she set down the tray, always with her left hand. The way she adjusted candles, always clockwise. The way she touched the doorframe before leaving, fingers tracing a pattern Isabella started to recognize. A warning, or a message, or both. On day 9, Beatrice brought more than food. She set down the tray, then pulled something from her sleeve while adjusting Isabella's water pitcher. A tiny scrap of paper, no bigger than a coin. She pressed it into Isabella's palm and was gone before Isabella could react. Isabella waited until she heard all 13 locks click. Then she unfolded the paper. 7 words in cramped handwriting. "Someone else is trapped down here." Isabella read it 3 times. Someone else. Another girl, another failed bride. She looked at the frescoes again, at the painted faces, showing various stages of horror, and wondered which one might still be alive somewhere in these chambers. She burned the paper in a candle flame and scattered the ashes. The next time Beatrice came, Isabella was ready. She'd torn a strip from her hem and used charcoal from a candle to write "Who Where." She palmed it when taking the tray. Beatrice's fingers brushed hers, taking the paper, her face showing nothing. 2 days passed before the answer came. "Painter, saw too much. 4th door east corridor. Been here 3 weeks. A painter? Isabella's mind raced. Someone who'd seen the ritual documented it. That's why they couldn't let him leave. She wrote back, "Can you help him escape?" The response came faster this time. "He's helping you." Wait, what did that mean? Isabella paced the small room 13 steps, one direction, 13 back. The frescoes watched with their painted eyes. She'd stopped looking at the curtained panel Beatrice had been. Right, it made the waiting unbearable. But she couldn't stop seeing it in her mind. That awareness, that endless consciousness, while something else wore your body like clothes. On day 17, Isabella woke to find something new in her room. A loose stone in the wall behind the wardrobe, one she'd checked before and found solid. Now it shifted under her fingers. She worked it free carefully, quietly aware of those listening holes in the ceiling. Inside the gap, a rolled piece of parchment. Her hands shook as she unrolled it. A drawing, incredibly detailed. The underground chambers mapped out completely, every corridor, every turn, every door, including a path marked in red from her room to a tunnel that led up, out, away. And in the corner, written in an elegant hand, Giovanni Marchesi, master painter. They caught me copying the frescoes. Been documenting Vatican secrets for 7 years. They think I'm mad now, so they're careless. When the time comes, I'll create a diversion. Be ready to run. You'll know when. Giovanni. Beatrice's last name was Marchesi. Isabella's breath caught. Related. Or just coincidence. She studied the map until she had it memorized, then rolled it back up and replaced the stone. That night, she used her knife to scratch marks into the floor beneath the bed where no one would see. A copy of the route coded in symbols only she would understand, just in case. The next morning, Beatrice brought news with the bread. "Cardinal Matteo arrives tomorrow." Isabella's stomach dropped. Why? To meet his bride. Beatrice's dead eyes flickered with something almost human. "He does this every 50 years. Visits the girl, pretends he cares, asks if she needs anything. It's part of the ritual. The groom must show compassion before the ceremony to complete the binding." What happens if I refuse to see him? They'll drag you to him. Better to go willingly. Maintain what dignity you can. Beatrice paused at the door. And Isabella, he's not the monster you think. That somehow makes it worse. After she left, Isabella stood in front of the one small mirror in the room. She'd lost white cheekbones sharp under pale skin. Her hair hung limp and dull. Dark circles under her eyes made her look already dead. Good. Let him see what they were doing to her. The next day, Beatrice came with a dress. Not white this time, but deep blue, almost black. For the meeting. You're to look presentable. I'm to look like a bride, you mean? Something worth sacrificing. Just put it on. Isabella dressed her hands steady. She'd spent weeks preparing for this moment, rehearsing what she'd say, how she'd say it. But when the guards came to escort her, two of them hands on sword hilts, her carefully planned words evaporated. They led her through corridors she hadn't seen before, up slightly away from the deepest chambers. The air changed, became less oppressive. They stopped at a door carved with roses and opened it without knocking. The room beyond was almost normal. Books on shelves, a desk with papers, a window. An actual window showing a sliver of Rome's sky. And standing at that window back to her, a man in cardinal's red. He turned. Isabella had expected a monster, expected cruelty in his face, corruption in his eyes. Instead, she saw someone who looked barely 30 with dark hair falling over his forehead and the expression of someone who hadn't slept in weeks. He looked at her and something in his face crumpled. "Madonna," he whispered, "you look just like the painting." "What painting?" "The one in my uncle's private chapel. The first bride from 700 years ago. They say you're all chosen for the resemblance." He crossed toward her, stopped when she stepped back. "I'm Matteo della Rovere. You're—" He couldn't finish the word. "My executioner." Isabella's voice was steel. "Let's not pretend this is a marriage." He flinched. "You know. I know you're going to let them kill me to appease something that shouldn't exist. I know you're doing it to save your own skin. I know you're a coward hiding behind holy robes." She took a step toward him. "What I don't know is how you sleep at night. I don't." His voice was raw. "Isabella, I don't use my name like we're friends. I'm trying to help you. Then let me go." "I can't. Can't or won't." He moved to the desk, poured wine with shaking hands. "If I refuse to participate, my uncle will choose another cardinal. They'll still perform the ritual. You'll still die. The only difference is my entire family will be slaughtered first. Mother, father, 3 sisters, 2 brothers, nieces and nephews. I've never met because they hide from me now like I'm diseased." He drank. "So yes, I'm a coward. I'm choosing my family over you. I'll carry that sin until I die. But don't ask me to pretend there was ever a choice." Isabella studied him. His hands shook. His eyes were bloodshot. He looked like a man being torn apart from the inside. "Tell me about the ritual," she said. "How it works. What they'll do to me." "Isabella, if you actually want to help tell me the truth, all of it." He was quiet for so long, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, he set down the wine and started talking. "The ritual is older than the church, older than Christ. When Peter came to Rome, there was already something here, something the Romans had tried to contain, then tried to worship, then finally just tried to forget. They built temples on top of it. The temples failed. People went mad. Children disappeared. Finally, they just sealed the entrance and pretended it wasn't there. Until Peter. Until Peter found it. Or it found him. No one knows which." Matteo ran his hands through his hair. "The accounts from that time are scattered. But the truth is this: whatever lives beneath Rome made Peter an offer. It would lend its power to the church, make Rome the center of Christendom, make the papacy unbreakable, make the faith spread across the world. In exchange, a feeding. Every 50 years. A girl born on the Ides of March, reaching 23, with no noble protection but enough family to ensure compliance. The requirements are specific because the ritual is specific. The girl becomes a door. Power flows through her into the papal succession. The dying pope's authority transfers to his chosen successor through... He stopped. Through me. Through what's left of me. You won't be dead. That's the horror of it. You'll be aware, conscious, for hours, maybe days, while the transfer completes. After that, his voice dropped to a whisper. After that, you'll be kept alive for the smaller rituals, binding wards, strengthening seals. They'll use you until your body finally gives out. How long does that take? The last girl lasted 11 years. Isabella's mere knees went weak. She grabbed the desk. 11 years. Conscious. Trapped. Most girls break at the 7th asking. Their minds shatter, and it's almost merciful then. They're not aware anymore. Just empty. He looked at her with desperate eyes. Isabella, when the ceremony starts, say yes quickly, please. Don't try to be brave. It only makes it worse. Is that what you tell yourself? That you're being merciful by helping them break us faster? Yes. His honesty was brutal. Because I've seen what happens to the ones who fight. I've heard them screaming for months afterward, still conscious, still aware, begging for death, and I can't give it to them because the ritual needs them alive. Isabella straightened. I'm going to fight anyway. Then you're a fool. Maybe, but I'll be a fool who died human instead of a coward who lived as a monster. She moved toward the door, then stopped. One question. The 13 witnesses. Who are they? The highest-ranking cardinals. Men who've proven their loyalty to the church above all else. Men who can keep this secret. His voice went flat. I'll be the 13th witness. The groom always is. It completes the binding. So you'll watch them destroy me. I'll watch them destroy both of us, just in different ways. He pulled something from his desk, a small vial, dark glass. Dark. This is poison, quick, painless. If you want out, a real out, take it before the ceremony. They'll just choose another girl in 50 years, but at least you won't suffer. Isabella looked at the vial. It would be so easy. Drink it tomorrow, fall asleep, never wake up. Cheat them of their victim. But then Juliana's letter echoed in her mind. Don't let them forget. She left the vial on his desk. I'm not giving them an easy sacrifice, she said. I'm going to make this as difficult and public and memorable as possible. And someday, someone's going to ask why Cardinal Matteo della Rovere looks like a haunted man. Maybe then you'll tell the truth. She knocked on the door. The guards opened it immediately. As they led her away, she heard Matteo behind her, voice breaking. I'm sorry. God forgive me, I'm so sorry. Isabella didn't look back. That night, she found another message from Giovanni in the loose stone. I saw him take you to Della Rovere. Did he offer poison? She wrote back, yes. His response came an hour later. Good. That means he's predictable. When the time comes, he'll be the weak link. The one who might hesitate. Use that. Over the following weeks, messages flowed between them. Giovanni told her things about the Vatican that Beatrice couldn't or wouldn't. The layout of the upper levels. Which guards changed shifts when. The fact that the Pope was dying faster than expected, his physicians gave him maybe 4 months instead of 6. They might move the ceremony earlier, Giovanni wrote. September instead of October. They're afraid he'll die before the transfer completes. September. That gave Isabella less time, but also less time to break. She asked Giovanni about Beatrice. Is she related to you? My aunt. Taken when my mother was young. The family never recovered. My mother spent her life trying to find out what happened. When she died, I inherited her research. That's how I learned the truth. How did you get caught? I got too bold. Tried to sketch the frescoes in the 13th chamber. A cardinal found me. They couldn't kill me. I'm too well known, people would ask questions. So they declared me mad and locked me here until I actually go mad. It's been 3 weeks. They're winning. Isabella wrote back, don't let them. I need you sane when this happens. What are you planning? I don't know yet, but it involves refusing 13 times and probably dying badly. That's a terrible plan. It's the only one I have. But she was lying. A real plan was forming piece by piece, built from everything she'd learned. The map Giovanni had given her. The knife Maria had given her. The medallion Francesca had given her. The information Beatrice smuggled in fragments. The ritual required consent. 13 askings. 13 refusals. But what if she didn't just refuse? What if she disrupted the entire ceremony? She started asking Beatrice careful questions. The 13 witnesses, do they all need to stay for the full ritual? Yes, if one leaves, the binding breaks. What happens if the binding breaks? The power has nowhere to go. It rebounds. Everyone in the chamber? Beatrice stopped. Why are you asking? Just curious. But Beatrice wasn't stupid. Her dead eyes sharpened. Isabella, whatever you're thinking, stop. A broken ritual doesn't just kill everyone present. It damages the containment. The thing below it could break free. Maybe that's what needs to happen. You don't understand what you're talking about. That thing has been contained for 2,000 years. If it gets loose, her voice dropped to a terrified whisper. 700 years ago, a ritual went wrong. The containment cracked. For 6 hours, that thing touched the world directly. 15,000 people in Rome went mad. Mothers drowned their children. Priests set fire to churches with congregations inside. The Pope at the time slit his own throat on the altar of St. Peter's. Isabella's blood ran cold. 6 hours did that. 6 hours. They got the containment restored before dawn, but Rome never forgot. That's why they keep performing the ritual, not for power, for containment. The feeding keeps it sleeping. You're telling me I'm not just being sacrificed for papal power. I'm being sacrificed to keep a demon contained. Not a demon. Something worse, older. Beatrice gripped Isabella's shoulders. Please, don't break the ritual. Die quickly, die human, but don't break it. The entire world depends on that thing staying buried. After she left, Isabella sat in the darkness and tried to process this new horror. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. If she disrupted the ceremony, she might destroy Rome. Might destroy more than Rome. But if she didn't fight, she'd become a door. Conscious, aware, for years. The knife was under her pillow. She could use it. End this before the ceremony. But then another girl would be chosen in 50 years, and 50 years after that. Forever. Unless someone broke the cycle completely. Isabella pulled out the medallion Francesca had given her. 13 marks around a circle. She'd been staring at it for weeks without understanding. Now in the candlelight, she saw it differently. Not 13 separate marks, 13 marks forming a seal. The same seal carved into the 13th door. She wrote to Giovanni, "The medallion I have. Do you know what these symbols mean?" His response was fast. "Where did you get that?" "Those are binding marks, very old, pre-Christian. They're used to contain things." Could they contain what's under the Vatican? A long pause. Then, theoretically, if you had enough of them placed correctly, but you'd need 13 medallions, one at each cardinal position during the ritual, and you'd need to speak the words of binding at the exact moment of transfer. It would, Isabella, it would trap everyone in the chamber, including you, including the thing, forever. Isabella stared at the message until the candle burned down and darkness swallowed it. Trap it. Trap them. Trap herself, not death, not freedom, but containment. It was insane. Impossible. Even if she could get 12 more medallions, even if she could plant them without being caught, even if she knew the words of binding. She wrote back, "Do you have 11 medallions? Why would I have weight? Are you serious? Do you? My mother collected them, spent 40 years tracking them down from families whose daughters were taken. She thought if she gathered enough, she could break the curse. She had 9 when she died. I have them here in my cell. They're all I have left of her. Can you get 2 more before September? Maybe. But Isabella, this is suicide. You understand that if you trap that thing, you trap yourself with it. Forever. Better than being a door. This is madness. Everything about this is madness. At least this way, I'm choosing my fate." She waited for his response. It took 3 days. "I'll get the medallions. I'll write out the binding words. I've been studying them for years. But Isabella, you need to understand what you're proposing. If this works, you won't die. You'll exist in a space outside time, holding the seal closed with your will alone. If you weaken, if you break, the thing gets free. You'll have to stay strong forever. No rest, no sleep, no end. Isabella wrote back with a steady hand. Then I'll stay strong. Send me the words. The binding words came in pieces over the next 2 weeks, smuggled by Beatrice, who didn't know what they were. Isabella memorized each fragment, burned the papers, scratched the words into the underside of the bed frame where the fresco's painted eyes couldn't see. Ancient words. Older than Latin, older than Rome. Words that hurt her throat just to practice silently. Giovanni got the last 2 medallions from a monk who'd been documenting Vatican crimes for 60 years. He says, if you succeed, light a candle in the window of the 13th chamber. He'll see it from his tower and know the monster is finally caged. And if I fail, then Rome will burn and none of this will matter anyway. August ended. September began. The Pope was dying faster now. Beatrice reported he'd collapsed twice, coughing blood, barely conscious. They were preparing to move the ceremony to September 29th, 2 days before All Hallows Eve, but the physicians said he wouldn't last until October. You have 3 weeks, Beatrice whispered. Whatever you're planning, finalize it. The night before they moved her to the ceremony chamber, Giovanni's final message came. 11 medallions sealed in wax pouches, hidden in the 11th candle from the left in your room, the one that never burns down. Beatrice knows which one. The words are complete. Your path is memorized. When the time comes, I'll set fire to the eastern wing. In the chaos, you'll have maybe 10 minutes before they contain it. Make them count. Isabella retrieved the pouches. 11 small silver circles, each marked with symbols that made her eyes water. She distributed them in her dress, sewn into hems and seams where searching hands wouldn't find them. The 12th medallion, the one Francesca had given her, she kept around her neck. Beatrice came one last time before dawn. They're moving you in an hour. This is goodbye. Isabella grabbed her hands. Beatrice, your nephew is trying to help me. If this works, if I somehow contain that thing, tell him I said thank you. Tell him his mother's work wasn't wasted. Beatrice's dead eyes filled with tears. You're really going to try this insane plan, aren't you? I don't have a choice. It's this or become a door. You could take the poison. Matteo left another vial in your water pitcher. Quick death, no pain. That's what they want. The easy sacrifice. Isabella squeezed her hands. I'm not making this easy. And Beatrice? 75 years is long enough. When this is over, one way or another, run. Get out. Live whatever time you have left above ground. I don't remember how. Then learn. You were Beatrice Marchesi before you were Sister Caterina. Be her again. Beatrice was crying now, silent tears tracking down her ruined face. No one said my real name in 75 years. I'd forgotten how it sounded. Beatrice Marchesi deserves to be remembered. So does Juliana. So do all of them. Isabella pulled her close. I'm going to make sure we're all remembered, one way or another. The guards came before Beatrice could respond. They pulled Isabella into the corridor, started the long walk down. Down past the 12 doors, down to the circular chamber, down to the 13th door that hurt to look at directly, down to where something ancient was waking hungry, ready for its 50-year feeding. Isabella's hand found the medallion around her neck, touched the knife in her boot, felt the 11 others sewn into her dress. Behind her, somewhere in the upper levels, Giovanni Marchesi was preparing to set Rome on fire. And Isabella Santori was preparing to trap herself in a cage with a monster for eternity. The 13th door opened with a sound like bones breaking. Beyond it, 13 candles waited in a perfect circle. It's time, the guard said. Isabella stepped through. The chamber was exactly as the frescoes had shown, circular. Stone floor polished smooth by centuries of feet. 13 candles arranged in a perfect circle, their flames motionless despite the air moving through unseen vents. And in the center, a stone altar carved with symbols that predated any alphabet Isabella recognized. 12 cardinals stood between the candles, one at each position except the 13th. They wore ceremonial robes so old, the fabric looked like it might disintegrate if touched. Their faces were hidden behind masks, not decorative masks, but ancient things made from hammered bronze that covered everything but their eyes. Those eyes tracked Isabella as she entered, cold, calculating, completely inhuman behind the metal. "Approach the altar." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, echoing off stone that had been hearing these words for longer than Christianity had existed. Isabella's legs wanted to lock, wanted to refuse to carry her forward, but she'd spent 3 months preparing for this moment. She forced herself to walk, counting steps. 1, 2, 3. At step 7, she stumbled deliberately, catching herself on the altar, the medallion pouches pressed against her ribs. Still hidden, still safe. "The bride is received." Another voice, different cardinal, same inhuman flatness. "Let the groom take his position." The 13th door opened again. Matteo entered, and Isabella almost didn't recognize him. He wore the bronze mask like the others, but his hands shook as he took his place between the final 2 candles. His eyes found hers, through the mask's eye holes, and she saw naked terror there. Good. At least he was still human enough to be afraid. "The circle is complete. Bring forth the dying." 4 monks entered carrying a litter. On it lay Pope Innocent VIII, and Isabella understood immediately why they'd moved the ceremony early. The man was barely alive. His skin was grey lips, blue eyes unfocused. Each breath rattled like stones in a jar. Blood stained the white silk beneath him. They positioned the litter beside the altar, the Pope's head level with where Isabella stood. His eyes rolled toward her, and something like recognition flickered there. Or maybe apology. Or maybe just hunger. It was impossible to tell what was him and what was the thing waiting below, already reaching up through his dying body. "Isabella Santori." The first cardinal spoke again. "You have been chosen for a purpose older than empires. Do you understand why you are here?" She'd rehearsed this moment 100 times, practiced every word, every inflection. But standing here, 13 masked figures surrounding her, something dying beside her, something worse waking below her, the words caught in her throat. "I asked you a question, child." "I understand." Her voice came out stronger than she felt. "I'm here to be sacrificed to something that has no name." A ripple went through the circle. Several cardinals shifted. Matteo's hands clenched at his sides. "You speak heresy." "I speak truth. You call this a wedding, but it's a feeding. You call me a bride, but I'm a door. You're forcing open. You call yourselves holy men, but you're maintaining a deal made with something that has nothing to do with God." Isabella's voice grew stronger with each word. "So let's stop pretending this is anything but what it is. You're going to try to hollow me out and pour something ancient into the empty spaces, and I'm going to refuse." "Bold words." The cardinal sounded almost amused. "But you misunderstand your role. Refusal is part of the ritual. We expect resistance. Welcome it even. The ceremony requires you to be broken, not willing. So rage if you must. Fight if you must. It changes nothing." Isabella's heart hammered, but she kept her face calm. They expected her to fight. They wanted her to fight. That was the first piece of information that might save her. "Then let's begin." She placed both hands on the altar, felt the stone cold enough to burn. "Ask me your questions." The first cardinal raised his arms. Latin poured from his mouth, words layered over words, some of them Latin, and some older, much older. The candles flared higher. The Pope's breathing stopped, then started again, each breath coming further apart. "Isabella Santori, do you consent to be the vessel?" No, the word echoed. The word, the candles flickered. Something beneath the floor stirred, and Isabella felt it through the soles of her feet. A presence so vast her mind couldn't grasp its edges. "Do you consent to open yourself to the power that flows from death to life, from ending to beginning?" No. The second refusal hit harder. The thing below pushed upward, testing the boundaries of its containment. The stone floor vibrated. One of the cardinals stumbled, caught himself. "Do you consent to become the door through which authority passes?" No. 3 down. 10 to go. Isabella's hands were white-knuckled on the altar. The pressure building in the chamber was immense, like being underwater and sinking deeper with each refusal. Her ears popped. Her vision blurred at the edges. The Pope convulsed. Blood poured from his mouth black and thick. His eyes rolled back, and for a moment, just a moment, Isabella saw something else looking out through them. Something that smiled. Do you consent to surrender your will to the necessity of succession? No. 4. Her nose started bleeding. The pressure was crushing. Every cell in her body screamed at her to say yes, to make it stop, to let the ritual flow the way it was designed to flow. The cardinals began chanting in unison now, their voices layering and building. The chamber filled with sound that wasn't quite sound, it bypassed ears and drove straight into bone. Isabella tasted copper. Her fingernails cracked against the stone. Do you consent to be unmade and remade in the image of holy purpose? No. 5. Halfway through, the thing below surged upward hard enough to crack the stone. A fissure split the floor between two candles thin as a hair, but growing. The cardinals closest to it stepped back. Their chanting faltered. Continue. The first cardinal's voice cracked with strain. The binding requires completion. But Isabella saw it, the fear bleeding through their inhuman composure. This wasn't going as planned. She was refusing too strongly, too absolutely. The ritual was designed for girls who broke, who wavered, whose refusals weakened with each asking. Isabella's refusals were getting stronger. Do you consent to bear the weight of centuries within your flesh? No. She shouted it this time, and the candles went out. All 13 at once, plunging the chamber into darkness so complete it felt solid. In the darkness, something laughed. Not the cardinals, not the Pope, something else. The thing they'd been feeding for 2,000 years, delighted that its meal was fighting back. The candles reignited with flames that burned green, then blue, then colours that had no names. The Pope sat up on his litter. Impossible, he'd been nearly dead. But he sat up and turned his head toward Isabella and smiled with too many teeth. Interesting. The voice that came from his mouth belonged to something that had learned to speak by listening to humans scream. This one has teeth. Matteo broke position. He lunged forward, grabbing Isabella's arm. Say yes. Please, God, just say yes before it... Get back in position. The first cardinal's mask had cracked, revealing an eye gone completely white with terror. You'll break the circle. The circle's already breaking. Matteo ripped off his mask. His face was streaming with tears and blood. Look at the floor. We've lost containment. Isabella looked. The crack in the floor was widening darkness seeping through like liquid night. And in that darkness, shapes moved. Suggestion of limbs that bent wrong, of faces that had too many eyes, of something vast pressing up from below. 7 more askings. The cardinal's voice shook. We can still complete this. Boy, back in position or I'll have you. You'll have me what? Killed. We're all already dead. Matteo pulled Isabella toward the door. Run, please, while you still can. I can't run. Isabella pulled free, stumbled back to the altar. If I run, it breaks free completely. You said it yourself, the feeding keeps it sleeping. Then let it wake, let it destroy them. They deserve... It won't just destroy them. Isabella's voice was steady despite the chaos erupting around them. The other cardinals were shouting Latin and older tongues mixing into cacophony. The Pope's body jerked like a puppet with tangled strings. The darkness from the crack was spreading, climbing the walls. It'll destroy everything, everyone, the entire world. How do you know that? Because Beatrice told me. Because Giovanni researched it. Because I've spent 3 months learning everything about this thing they've been hiding. She reached into her dress, pulled out the first medallion. And because I have a plan. Matteo stared at the silver circle. What is that? A binding seal. I have 12 more. If I place them correctly, speak the right words at the moment of transfer, I can trap it. Seal it permanently. That's insane. You'd trap yourself with it. Better than becoming a door. Isabella pushed him away. Get back in position. If you break the circle, now I lose my chance. Isabella, now. He stumbled back to his place mask hanging forgotten from his hand. The other cardinals had stopped chanting, were staring at the spreading darkness with undisguised horror. The thing wearing the Pope's body laughed again. Oh, this is delicious. The little bride thinks she can cage me. The too-wide smile grew wider. Girl, I've been eating creatures older than your species since before this planet cooled. What makes you think, do you consent to be the threshold between what dies and what endures? Isabella cut it off, her voice ringing clear. The seventh asking. She had to keep the ritual moving or lose all momentum. The thing's smile faltered. You're asking me, you're wearing the Pope's body. His consciousness is still in there barely, so I'm asking him. Isabella locked eyes with whatever looked out from those ancient eyes. Pope Innocent VIII, do you consent to pass your authority through me like you've passed it through 12 girls before me? For a moment, just a heartbeat, the Pope's real eyes surfaced. Terrified, trapped, aware of what was being done with his body. No. His real voice cracked and small. God forgive me, no. The chamber shook. The thing inside him screamed a sound that shattered 3 of the bronze masks and sent 2 cardinals to their knees, hands over bleeding ears. That's 8 askings, Isabella shouted over the noise. 5 more, complete the ritual or lose it entirely. You're breaking the pattern. The first cardinal lurched toward her. The Pope can't refuse, he's the one transferring power. Then your ritual is flawed. Isabella pulled out 3 more medallions, started placing them beside candles. The cardinals were too shocked to stop her. Because your vessel just refused consent. What happens when both bride and groom say no? The answer came from below. The crack in the floor split wider and something started climbing through. Not metaphorical darkness, physical matter if matter was the right word for substance, that made eyes bleed to look at directly. The cardinals broke. 4 of them ran for the door. 2 collapsed unconscious or dead. The remaining 6 grabbed their masks like shields, chanting in voices gone shrill with panic. Matteo grabbed Isabella again. You can't stay here. Look at it. It's coming through. I know. That's why I need the ceremony to continue. She wrenched free, placed 2 more medallions. 7 down, 5 to go. Get them to finish the askings. All 13 or the binding won't hold. They're not going to. Make them. Isabella's voice cracked. Tell them if they run now, that thing follows them out. The only chance is to complete the ritual and let me seal it. Matteo turned to the remaining cardinals. You heard her. Ask the questions. All of them now. But the protocol. Damn the protocol. We're past protocol. He grabbed the nearest cardinal by the robes, slammed him against the wall. Ask her or we all die. Is that clear enough? The cardinal's voice shook. Do you consent to bear witness to the transition between the throne of Peter and its inheritor? No. Isabella placed the 8th medallion. The thing from below was halfway through the crack now, and she could see no. She couldn't see. Her mind refused to process what her eyes were showing it. Limbs that existed in more dimensions than 3. Faces that were simultaneously infant and ancient. A presence so massive it made the chamber feel like a dollhouse. Do you consent to hold the vessel of continuity within your mortal frame? No. 9th medallion down. 3 to go. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the 10th. Do you consent to... The cardinal couldn't continue. He was staring at the thing climbing from the crack, and his mind was breaking in real time. Blood ran from his nose. His eyes weren't focusing. Finish it, Matteo screamed, to be the bridge between what was and what must be. No! 10th medallion. 2 left. The thing was almost completely through the crack. The chamber was collapsing, stone cracking the air thick enough to choke on. Do you consent to sacrifice your mortality for the continuance of divine authority? No. 11th medallion. 1 more. Isabella's fingers found the last pouch, ripped it open. The silver circle fell into her palm, burning cold. The thing stopped climbing. Its attention, if it could be called attention, focused entirely on Isabella. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere. From the stones, from the air, from inside her own skull. Clever little morsel, you're trying to trap me. Do you consent? The cardinal's voice was barely a whisper. The final asking, the 13th. Wait, the thing raised something that might have been a hand. Let me make you an offer, Isabella Santori. I like you. You have fight. You have fury. So here's my proposal. Say yes to this final asking. Let the ritual complete. Become my door. And in exchange, I'll give you something you want very badly. Isabella's hand closed on the 12th medallion. I'm listening. Your family. Your sweet sister Maria. Your father who failed to protect you. Your mother counting rosary beads until her fingers bleed. They're all going to die, you know, within a year. My followers will make sure of it. Can't have them talking, asking questions, making noise. It smiled with the Pope's face. But if you cooperate, if you become my willing vessel, I'll spare them. Let them live full lives. They'll never know what happened to you, but they'll survive. Isn't that worth it? Isn't that what a good daughter would choose? Isabella's vision blurred. Maria. God Maria had been her last thought before the carriage came. Maria refusing to accept she was gone. You're lying. I never lie. I don't need to. Humans are so delightfully good at destroying themselves without my help. The thing leaned forward. Last chance. Say yes to the 13th asking and your family lives. Say no and they suffer deaths that will be legend in hell. Matteo was at her elbow. Don't listen to it. It's lying. It has to be. But Isabella wasn't sure. She looked at the remaining cardinals, at their terrified faces. Is it lying? The first cardinal, the one who'd started this entire nightmare, met her eyes. And slowly, horribly, he shook his head. We always kill the families, he whispered. Within a year. Standard protocol. Can't risk them organizing, comparing stories, figuring out the pattern. We've been doing it for 700 years. Isabella's knees buckled. Maria. Her brave, furious sister, dead within a year, murdered by the same institution that was murdering her now. So, little bride, what will it be? The thing's smile was eager. Your humanity and their deaths, or your sacrifice and their survival. Isabella's hand trembled. The 12th medallion slipped, hit the floor, rolled toward the crack. She lunged for it, fingers closing around silver just before it disappeared into the darkness below. Isabella. Matteo's voice was gentle. You don't have to save them. You don't have to save anyone. It's okay to be selfish. It's okay to choose yourself. Is it? She looked up at him. You chose your family over me. How's that working out for your conscience? He flinched. Isabella stood, placed the 12th medallion between the final two candles directly in front of Matteo's position. The circle was complete. 12 binding seals, each one representing a girl who'd been taken, used, destroyed. Each one a testament to the atrocity that had been feeding this thing for longer than nations had existed. Ask me the 13th question. Isabella, wait, ask me. The cardinal's voice was barely audible. Do you consent to the fulfillment of the ritual, the completion of the transfer, the opening of the way? Isabella pulled the original medallion from around her neck, the one Francesca had given her, the 13th seal. She held it up. Let everyone see. I consent to none of it. I refuse your ritual. I refuse your power. I refuse your authority. She placed the medallion on the altar itself in the exact center of the circle. And I invoke the binding of 13 witnessed by 13 sealed by 13. By the names that predate names, by the words that unmake words, I seal you here. Forever. The ancient language poured from her throat. Words Giovanni had taught her. Words his mother had spent 40 years collecting. They hurt to speak, felt like vomiting broken glass, but Isabella forced them out. 1 syllable, 2, 3. The thing screamed. The sound shattered the litter beneath the Pope's body. Cracked 3 of the candles sent the cardinals sprawling. But Isabella kept speaking, kept forcing the binding words through bleeding lips. Matteo grabbed her shoulders. What's happening? What did you do? Trapped it. Trapped us. Trapped everything in this chamber in a space outside time. The words were getting harder to form. The binding requires a keeper, someone to hold the seal closed with their will. That's me now. You can't. I have to. It's the only way. Isabella's voice was fading. She could feel the binding taking hold, feel herself being pulled out of normal reality and into something else. Tell Beatrice to run. Tell Giovanni his mother's work saved the world. Tell my family. She stopped. What could she tell them? That she died brave, that she died human. Tell them I chose this. That's all. Isabella, no. Matteo was crying openly now. There has to be another way. Some other solution. There isn't. You know there isn't. She touched his face, her hand already feeling distant. You get to live with that, with knowing you were part of this, with knowing 12 girls before me went through what you just watched. That's your punishment, Matteo. Living. The binding was almost complete. The thing was shrieking, thrashing, trying to break free. But the 13 medallions glowed with light that had nothing to do with fire. The circle held. The seal held. Isabella held. Go, she whispered. Get out before the door seals. I won't leave you. You don't have a choice. When the binding completes, anyone still in the circle gets trapped too. So go, now. That's the last mercy I can give you. The remaining cardinals were already fleeing. Matteo hesitated one more moment, then stumbled toward the door. He looked back, once face destroyed by tears and horror, and something that might have been love if they'd had time for it. I'll tell them, he said. I'll tell everyone. I'll burn this whole institution down if I have to, but I'll make sure they know what happened here. You won't. Isabella smiled sadly. You'll stay quiet like all the others, because that's what cowards do. But it's okay. I forgive you anyway. He wanted to argue. She saw it in his face. But he didn't. He just turned and ran. The door slammed shut. The binding completed. Isabella Santori ceased to exist in the normal flow of time. She became something else, something new, a living seal her consciousness stretched across the 13 medallions her will, the only thing standing between the world and the thing that wanted to consume it. She could feel it thrashing beneath her, could feel it testing the binding, looking for weaknesses, could feel her own humanity starting to fray at the edges, worn away by contact with something so alien her mind had no framework for understanding it. But she held. And in the darkness of her new existence, she made herself a promise. However long this lasted, years, decades, centuries, she would hold. She would be the cage this monster deserved. She would be the testimony to every girl who'd been sacrificed before her. She would be the one who finally said no, and meant it. Outside the sealed chamber, Rome burned. Giovanni had kept his promise, set fire to the eastern wing. In the chaos, Beatrice escaped through servants' passages, ran until her ancient legs gave out, collapsed in a church she didn't recognize. When they found her the next morning, she was crying and couldn't stop. But when they asked her name for the first time in 75 years, she told them the truth. Beatrice, my name is Beatrice Marchesi, and I need you to write something down, before I forget. Before they make me forget again. In the Vatican, the cardinals gathered in emergency session. The Pope was dead. The ritual had failed. And something in the underground chambers was sealed, yes, but it was sealed with one of their own locked inside it. What do we do? A younger cardinal asked. The first cardinal, mask gone, face aged 100 years, in one night looked at them all. We say she died of fever. We send her jewelry back to her family. We make sure anyone who knows the truth understands the cost of speaking it. His voice was hollow. And in 50 years, when the binding weakens, we do this all over again. But the girl Isabella, she's still conscious in there, still aware, holding it closed. I know. For how long? The cardinal looked away. Forever, or until she breaks? Whichever comes first. In the sealed chamber, Isabella heard their words as if from very far away. She smiled, though she no longer had a mouth to smile with. Let them try to do this again in 50 years. Let them try to find another girl to sacrifice. She'd make sure the thing beneath her was so contained, so completely sealed, that even if they found a way to unseal the chamber, they'd never be able to feed it again. This cycle ended with her. And if she had to hold this cage closed for 1,000 years, she would. The thing beneath her thrashed one more time, testing her will. Isabella pushed back harder. The battle had only just begun. Time stopped meaning anything after the first 100 years. Isabella existed in a state between consciousness and dissolution. Her awareness stretched across the 13 medallions like a spider's web made of will and fury. The thing beneath her never stopped testing the binding. It pushed against her, constantly probing for weaknesses, whispering promises and threats in languages that predated human speech. But Isabella had learned something in those first terrible decades. The thing was ancient, yes, powerful beyond measure, but it was also alone. It had been alone for so long that loneliness had become its defining characteristic, and loneliness made it desperate. Desperation made it sloppy. You're weakening. The thing's voice slithered through her consciousness like oil. I can feel it. Another century and you'll fracture completely. Then I'll be free and your sacrifice will have meant nothing. I've been weakening for 200 years according to you. Still here. Or are you just the echo of a girl who died a long time ago, too stubborn to realize she's gone? Isabella didn't answer. Couldn't afford to engage. Every conversation took energy she needed for maintaining the seal. But the thing was right about one thing: she was weakening, not in decades or centuries, in moments. Every second she held the binding closed cost her pieces of herself she'd never get back. She'd forgotten her mother's face after year 30, her father's voice after year 60, Maria's laugh, God, that had lasted until year 95, and losing it had nearly broken her completely. But she still remembered why she was here. Still remembered that 12 girls before her had been destroyed for this thing's appetite. Still remembered that if she failed, the world above would burn. That memory was enough. It had to be enough. Then, in what might have been year 206, or might have been yesterday time, was meaningless in the sealed chamber, something changed. Someone knocked on the 13th door. The sound reverberated through Isabella's consciousness like a gunshot. Nothing had touched that door since Matteo fled 2 centuries ago. Nothing should be able to touch it. The binding sealed it from both sides, locked in a space outside normal reality. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 knocks. The same pattern the guards had used when delivering her to this nightmare. Interesting. The thing beneath her perked up attention, shifting from its eternal testing of the seal. Someone remembers the old ways. Isabella focused what remained of her awareness on the door. Through the binding, she could sense someone on the other side. Not a cardinal, the presence felt different. Younger. Female. The knocking came again. Then a voice muffled but clear. Isabella Santori. My name is Elena Marchesi. I'm Giovanni's great-great-great-granddaughter. If you can hear me, if you're still conscious in there, I need you to know something. We found your sister's journal. Isabella's entire being froze. Maria's journal. She wrote about you every day for 40 years after you disappeared. Refused to believe you'd died of fever. She spent her whole life investigating the Vatican, collecting testimony from families whose daughters vanished the same way. She died at 63, but before she did, she passed everything to her daughter. Who passed it to her daughter? Who passed it to me? Elena's voice strengthened. We've been watching the Vatican for 7 generations, Isabella, waiting for the next summoning, waiting for them to choose another girl. But they haven't. Not in 206 years. The cycle's broken. Whatever you did in there, it worked. The thing beneath Isabella thrashed. Lies, she's lying to weaken you. Don't listen. But Isabella was listening. Maria had lived, had fought, had refused to forget. I don't know if you're alive in there, or if I'm talking to a ghost, or if this is insane. But I had to try. Because your sister's last journal entry, she made me promise to read it to you if I ever found this door. So here it is." Paper rustled. Elena cleared her throat. "Isabella, if you can hear this, know that I never stopped looking. I never stopped believing you chose to fight. Papa died thinking he failed you. That killed him faster than any disease. Mama prayed herself to death hoping God would send you back. But I knew better. I knew you weren't dead. I knew you were doing something bigger than any of us understood. So I'm doing something too. I'm making sure they can never hide this again. Every family who lost a daughter, I've found them. Every record the Vatican tried to destroy, I've copied. Every cardinal who participated, I've documented. Your story will survive, Bella. I swear it. Your story will survive, even if you don't." Elena's voice cracked. "That was written 3 days before she died. She was holding a medallion exactly like the ones you used for the binding. She'd spent 30 years tracking it down. She wanted to be buried with it, but she left instructions for us to bring it here instead. To strengthen the seal if we ever found it." A pause. Then a metallic sound, something being pushed under the door. A 14th medallion rolled across the floor of the sealed chamber, silver catching light that didn't exist. It came to rest against the altar, humming with the same frequency as the other 13. The thing beneath Isabella screamed. The binding, stretched thin after 2 centuries, suddenly strengthened. The seal, worn down by constant pressure, reinforced itself. Isabella felt power flood back into her awareness, felt pieces of herself that had frayed suddenly weave back together. "No," the thing's voice was pure fury. "You can't strengthen it. The deal was 13. 13 askings, 13 witnesses, 13 seals. The deal's broken." Isabella's voice, unused for decades, rang clear. "You tried to break me. My sister broke you instead." She reached out with consciousness that felt almost human again and pulled the 14th medallion into the binding. It clicked into place like it had been waiting 2 centuries to come home. The seal blazed. The thing shrieked and retreated, driven back by power it hadn't felt since the ritual first trapped it. Elena's voice came again, triumphant. "Did it work? I felt something. The door got so cold, it burned my hand. Did it work?" Isabella tried to speak, to thank her, to tell her what Maria's gift had done, but the binding wouldn't let her. She existed outside of time, outside of voice. All she could do was pulse the medallions once, twice, 3 times, a pattern Elena would hopefully understand as yes. Silence. Then, "Oh my God, you're really in there. You're really still holding it." Another pause, longer this time. "Isabella, I have to tell you something else. Something you need to know before I leave. The church knows I'm here. They've been tracking my family for decades, waiting for one of us to find this door. There are guards coming right now, I can hear them. But before they take me, before they make me disappear, like they made you disappear, I need you to know this." Her voice dropped to a fierce whisper. "We're not the only ones looking. There are others. Families across Europe, all descendants of the girls who were taken. Maria started a network, and it's been growing for 200 years. We call ourselves the Witnesses, and we've sworn an oath if the Vatican ever tries this ritual again, we'll burn it to the ground." Footsteps echoed, men shouting. Elena's breathing quickened. "They're here. I have to run. But Isabella, hold on. Just a little longer. We're going to find a way to free you, I promise." Maria's promise didn't die with her, and it won't die with me either. The door above rattled. Guards pounding. "One more thing, your knife. The one your sister gave you. We found it in the church's vault of forbidden objects. They kept it as evidence of your heresy. We stole it back. It's in my coat pocket right now." A sharp laugh. "If they catch me, at least I'll go down fighting with a piece of you in my hand." The door burst open, shouting. Elena's voice raised in defiance. "The witnesses remember Isabella Santori was here. She chose to." A gunshot, a body hitting the floor, then silence. Isabella screamed without sound, her consciousness thrashing against the binding. "Elena! God, not Elena. Not another Marchese woman destroyed by this cursed place." But the thing beneath her was laughing. See, this is what humans do. They fight and die and achieve nothing. Your sister wasted her life. That girl just wasted hers. And you're wasting whatever you are in here holding, closed a door that will open eventually anyway. Its voice turned cruel. When you finally break, and you will break, I'm going to make sure the first thing I consume is every single descendant of Maria Santori. I'm going to make you watch. Rage flooded through Isabella. Pure, incandescent rage that she'd been holding back for 2 centuries. She'd been careful measured conserving strength. But Elena's murder, Maria's great-great-great-granddaughter, killed for trying to help shattered that careful control. Isabella stopped holding the binding closed. She started crushing it inward. The thing's laughter cut off. What are you doing? What I should have done 200 years ago. Isabella's voice was steel. You want out, fine, but you're taking me with you. We're going to merge completely, become one thing. And then I'm going to use your power to destroy every single person who participated in this ritual. You can't, that's not how the binding works. The binding is mine now. I've held it for 2 centuries. I've bled into it, died into it, been remade by it. I know every crack, every seal, every word of power. Isabella pushed harder, forcing the binding to contract. So here's your choice. Stay trapped forever with me, slowly crushing you into nothing. Or merge with me and hope you're stronger than my fury. The thing thrashed. You'll destroy yourself. Merging means losing everything human. You'll become me. Good. Then I'll be powerful enough to make them pay. Isabella, stop. A new voice, faint but desperate. Matteo. He was still alive, impossibly 200 years later, and still alive. Elena told me what she was planning. I tried to stop her. Please don't let her death make you into a monster. I'm already a monster. Isabella crushed the binding tighter. I've been a monster since the day they dragged me down here. The only difference is I'm choosing what kind of monster to be. Matteo's voice strengthened. He must be right outside the door, fingers pressed to the seal. Listen to me. The guards who shot Elena, they're already dead. I killed them myself. First blood I've ever spilled in 200 years, and I did it for her, for you, for every girl we've destroyed. You expect gratitude? I expect nothing, but I need you to hear this. After you sealed yourself in, I tried to speak out, tried to tell the truth like I promised. They stripped me of my position, threw me in a cell, and left me to rot. But they couldn't kill me. The ritual, your refusal broke it, but it also did something else. Everyone in that chamber, when the binding sealed, we stopped aging. Isabella's consciousness flickered. What? The 7 cardinals who survived me, the guards who dragged your body here, none of us have aged a day. We're trapped between time and timelessness. Close enough to the seal that we're affected by it far enough that we're not bound by it. We're living ghosts, Isabella. And we've spent 200 years trying to figure out how to free you. Why guilt? At first, yes, but then something else. Hope. His voice dropped. Because if the binding can be reversed, if you can be freed, it means every girl before you might not be completely gone. Their consciousness might still exist somewhere in the residue of failed rituals. We could save them too. The thing beneath her went very still. He's lying. They're all beyond saving. I consumed them completely. Did you? Isabella turned her awareness inward, toward the deepest part of the binding where her consciousness touched the things. Because I can feel something else in here. Other voices. Faint, almost gone, but still present. She pushed deeper past the thing's defenses into memories it had been hoarding. And there, God, there they were. 12 other girls. 12 other consciousnesses so fragmented and torn they were barely recognizable as human. But still there, still trapped, still aware in some horrible, diminished way. You didn't consume them. Isabella's voice shook. You trapped them inside yourself, fed on them slowly, keeping them conscious so their suffering would last longer. It's more efficient that way. You're not just evil, you're petty. Isabella made a decision. Matteo, can you hear me? His voice came clearer. Yes, how are you? Never mind how. Listen carefully. I'm going to do something that might kill me, might kill all of us. But if it works, it frees everyone. The 12 girls, me, even this thing, but contained powerless mortal. What do you need? Giovanni's binding words. All of them. Every syllable he taught me, I need them reversed. Can you get them? Giovanni died 60 years ago, but his research is preserved. His daughter continued his work. His granddaughter, after that. The Marchesi family has been documenting Vatican secrets for 7 generations. Then find them. Find the reversal words. And Matteo, Isabella paused. Find the witnesses, Elena's network. Tell them what I'm planning. If I fail, they need to burn this place to bedrock. And if you succeed, then 13 girls get to go home. Or whatever's left of home after 2 centuries. Matteo's presence retreated. Isabella turned her attention back to the thing. Last chance. Merge with me willingly, let me use your power to free the others, and I'll give you something you haven't had in 2,000 years. What could you possibly give me? Death. Real death. The kind that ends. You're tired, I can feel it. Tired of being worshipped, tired of being feared, tired of existing. You want rest as badly as I do. The thing was as quiet for a long time. Then, you really would do it. End us both. Without hesitation. Even though it means losing everything, your memories, your humanity, even the satisfaction of revenge. I never wanted revenge. I wanted this to stop. If dying stops it, I die. Simple. Another silence. The thing's consciousness pressed against hers, reading her intent, testing her resolve. You're not bluffing. I stopped bluffing 200 years ago. The thing laughed, and for the first time it sounded almost affectionate. I've been fed saints and sinners, warriors and cowards, but I've never been fed anyone quite like you, Isabella Santori. You're magnificent in your stubbornness. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. Tell me your plan first. So Isabella told it. The reversal words would unmake the binding from the inside out. But to work, they needed to be spoken by all 13 girls simultaneously. Their consciousness joined their voices united. The thing's power would fuel the reversal, channeling itself into breaking its own prison. And when the binding breaks, the thing asked, we all spill out into normal time at once. The girls will be corporeal again, 200 years displaced but alive. You'll be mortal, trapped in a body that can die. And I'll be whatever's left after holding this seal for 2 centuries. You'll probably disintegrate. The strain has been too much for too long. I know. You're choosing death. I'm choosing freedom. For all of us. The thing considered. And if I refuse, if I stay here and wait for you to finally break... Isabella smiled without a face. Then I spend the next 100 years doing exactly what I've been doing for the last 200. And trust me, I'm very, very good at being stubborn. That's not a plan, that's spite. Spite's kept me alive this long. I can make it last another century if I have to. The thing laughed again, and this time it sounded almost sad. You really are magnificent. No wonder the ritual broke. You're not a door at all. You're a wall. So, do we have a deal? Before the thing could answer, Matteo's voice returned. Isabella, I've found them. The reversal words, Giovanni had them encoded in a painting. Took us 6 hours to crack it, but we have them. Read them to me. They need to be spoken by all 13 girls. You said so yourself. I'll handle that. Just read them. Matteo began. Latin first, then older languages, then sounds that weren't quite language at all. Isabella absorbed each word, felt them searing into her consciousness like brands. When he finished, she had them memorized, knew them as intimately as her own name, or what used to be her name. She'd almost forgotten what Isabella meant. Ready? She asked the thing. This is insane. That's not an answer. The thing sighed, a sound like wind through dead trees. Fine. Yes. Let's end this. But Isabella, when we merge, when you see what I really am under, all the fear and worship, you might regret this. Too late for regrets. Isabella reached down through the binding, found the 12 other girls trapped in the thing's consciousness. They felt her touch and responded weakly, like dying plants turning toward light. She gathered them carefully, gently. Juliana, who'd been the first. Beatrice, who'd almost escaped. The girl from 1437, whose name had been erased. The one from 1487, who'd fought until her mind shattered. All 12 barely present, but still clinging to existence. "Sisters," Isabella whispered, "it's time to go home." She fed them the reversal words, fed them her strength, her fury, her stubborn refusal to break. They drank it in like water, and slowly, so slowly, they began to remember how to speak. One voice, two, three, building. The reversal words echoing through the binding, unmaking it syllable by syllable. The thing joined in, adding its power to the reversal. And Isabella let go. After 206 years of holding the seal closed, she opened her hands and released everything. The binding exploded. The 13th door blasted open, hinges vaporizing. The circular chamber flooded with light that hadn't touched it in centuries. And from that light, 13 bodies fell. 12 girls restored to the age they'd been when taken. Physically, 23, but carrying consciousnesses that had endured centuries. They hit the floor, gasping, crying, clutching at stone that was blessedly solid and real. And Isabella fell last, and when she hit the floor, she shattered, not metaphorically. Her body, held together for 2 centuries by pure will, couldn't handle the sudden return to normal time. She cracked like porcelain pieces scattering across the stone. But in those pieces, something else emerged. Something that had been growing during her long imprisonment. Not human, not monster, something new. The thing manifested beside her, no longer bound or trapped. It had taken a form finally after 2,000 years of formlessness, and the form it chose was simple. An old man. Tired. Thin. Completely mortal. "Well," it looked down at its hands. "This is different." Matteo stood in the doorway staring. Behind him, a dozen men and women, the witnesses Isabella guessed armed and ready to fight. "Is it over?" Matteo's voice shook. The old man, the thing, nodded. "It's over. She won. The binding is broken, the ritual is unmade, and I am—" It laughed softly. "Mortal. Finally, after all this time, mortal." "And Isabella?" They all looked at the scattered pieces on the floor. Fragments of a girl who'd stopped being human 2 centuries ago, but had never stopped being herself. Then the pieces moved. They didn't rejoin, couldn't rejoin. But they shifted, rearranged, and from them rose something that might have been smoke, or might have been light, or might have been consciousness made visible. It shaped itself slowly into a form that was recognizable. A girl, 23 years old, dark hair, green eyes, Isabella Santori remade. "Did we do it?" Her voice echoed like it was coming from very far away. "Are they free?" The 12 girls were sitting up now, looking around in wonder and horror. Juliana reached out and touched the floor, started crying. Beatrice laughed a sound like breaking. The others just stared, unable to process that the nightmare had ended. "We're free?" Juliana whispered. "God help us, we're actually free." Isabella's form flickered, growing fainter. "Good, then I can rest." "Wait!" Matteo lunged forward. "Don't go. We can find a way to make you corporeal again. We can—" "I don't want to be corporeal." Isabella smiled, and it was the first genuine smile she'd managed in 200 years. "I want to sleep. Really sleep. No watching, no holding, no fighting, just peace." "You deserve more than peace. You deserve a life." "I had a life. It was short and it ended badly, but I spent the next 2 centuries making sure it meant something." She looked at the 12 freed girls. "Take care of them. Help them adjust. The world has changed since they were taken. What about your family, Maria's descendants? They've been searching for you for 7 generations." Isabella's form flickered again, dimmer now. "Tell them I love them. Tell them the stubbornness runs in the family. And tell them," her voice cracked, "tell them I never stopped fighting. Isabella, one more thing." She turned to the old man, the thing that was now mortal. "You, what's your name?" Your real name before humans gave you all the others." The old man smiled sadly. "I don't remember. It's been too long." "Then I'm giving you one. From now on, you're called Requiem, because that's what we both wanted all along. An ending." Requiem. The old man tested it. "Yes, that fits." "Good. Now live. However long you have left in that mortal body, live it well. Be better than what you were. And if I can't, then Maria's descendants will find you and end it. Trust me, they're very good at holding grudges." Isabella's form was almost transparent now. "Goodbye, Matteo. Goodbye, Requiem. Goodbye, sisters." The 12 freed girls raised their hands in farewell, tears streaming, smiles breaking through horror. Isabella's form dispersed like smoke in wind, and for the first time in 206 years, the 13th chamber was empty of everything but humans. The witnesses rushed in, helping the freed girls stand, wrapping them in blankets, offering water. Matteo stood frozen, staring at the space where Isabella had been. "She's really gone," Requiem nodded. "She dissolved back into the fundamental forces she was made from. She's not dead. She's just—" He searched for words. "Returned to where all consciousness eventually goes. The place before birth after death. She's at peace. She deserved better. She deserved a life. But she chose salvation instead. For all of us." Requiem touched his chest, feeling a heartbeat for the first time in 2 millennia. "I'm going to make sure that choice matters." Over the following days, the story spilled out. The witnesses documented everything. The 12 freed girls gave testimony. Matteo confessed his role. And Requiem, formerly a thing of nightmares, told the truth about the deal that had corrupted the church for 2,000 years. The Vatican tried to suppress it, but Maria's network was too large, too organized. Within a month, every newspaper in Europe carried the story. Within 6 months, investigations were launched. Within a year, the entire structure of papal succession was being reformed. The 13th chamber was sealed again, but this time with concrete and rebar and warning signs in 14 languages. The church declared it cursed ground, forbidden to all. But on the anniversary of Isabella's sacrifice, someone always left flowers outside the sealed door. Usually roses, sometimes just wildflowers gathered from Roman streets. Once, mysteriously jasmine, the flower that had been blooming the night the summons came for her. The 12 freed girls scattered to the four winds. Some integrated back into society, some couldn't, and lived quiet lives in institutions that treated them kindly. Juliana wrote a book that became a bestseller. Beatrice reunited with distant descendants of her family and died peacefully in her sleep, 5 years later, smiling. Matteo lived another 40 years, spending every moment advocating for victims of church abuse. He died at what should have been 267 years old, looking 35, finally released from the curse of the broken ritual. Requiem disappeared. Some said he walked into the sea. Others claimed he was living as a priest in some remote village trying to atone. A few swore they'd seen an old man tending gardens outside churches, planting flowers and humming songs in languages no one recognized. And Isabella. On quiet nights when the moon was right and the air held that particular stillness that comes before dawn, some people reported seeing something in Rome's streets. A girl, young, dark hair, green eyes, walking with purpose toward the Vatican as if checking on something, making sure the seal held. They said if you approached her, she'd vanish. But if you left her alone, she'd complete her walk, touch the sealed chamber door once gently, like greeting an old friend, and then disappear like smoke. Just a ghost story. Just people seeing what they wanted to see. But in the sealed chamber, impossible though, it should have been, flowers grew. Small white ones that bloomed in total darkness, needing neither soil nor light. They appeared every year on September 29th, the date of Isabella's sacrifice, and died exactly 24 hours later. The Vatican sent botanists to explain it, sent priests to bless it away, sent engineers to seal every crack. Nothing worked. The flowers kept appearing. And if you stood very quiet at dawn on September 29th, pressed your ear to the sealed door, you could hear something. Not the thing that had been trapped there, that was gone made mortal finally allowed to die. But something else, something lighter, a voice maybe, or just whined through ancient stones sounding almost like laughter. The laughter of a girl who'd said no and meant it. The laughter of someone who'd won. 20 years after the binding broke, a young woman named Sophia Russo stood outside the Vatican with a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. Inside were documents her grandmother had collected. Documents her great-great-great-great-grandmother Maria had started gathering 2 centuries ago. Documents that would finish what Isabella began. You don't have to do this. Her husband Marco touched her elbow. We could burn them, move to Argentina. Forget any of this ever happened. Maria didn't forget. Isabella didn't forget. Why should I? Because they're both dead, and you're not. Yet. Sophia looked at the sealed chamber door, visible through the Vatican gardens. Even from here, 20 meters away and behind iron gates, she could feel it. Something residual, something watching. Did I ever tell you about my grandmother's funeral? Sophia, she was 93, died peacefully in her sleep. But at the funeral, this old man showed up, ancient. Had to be at least 150 if he was a day. He stood in the back, didn't speak to anyone, just stared at her casket like he was memorizing it. Sophia's hands tightened on the folder. When I asked who he was, my mother went white. Said that was Matteo della Rovere. Said he'd been at every Santori funeral for 6 generations. Marco's eyes widened. The cardinal from the ritual, former cardinal. He was excommunicated 3 months after Isabella's sacrifice, spent 200 years trying to atone. Sophia's voice dropped. At the burial, he came up to me, grabbed my hands. His grip was like ice. He said, "Your ancestor is still fighting. Every day, every moment. The seal holds because she wills it to hold. Don't let her sacrifice be forgotten." That's impossible. Isabella dissolved 20 years ago. Ah, everyone saw it. That's what I thought too, until I started having the dreams. Marco went very still. What dreams? A girl, my age, dark hair, green eyes. She stands outside my bedroom window every night at 3 a.m. Doesn't speak, just points, always in the same direction. Sophia pointed at the Vatican. There. And last week the dreams changed. She wasn't pointing anymore, she was beckoning. That's just stress. The pressure of carrying your family's legacy. Then explain this. Sophia pulled a photograph from the folder, showed him. Security camera outside our apartment. 3 days ago. 3 a.m. exactly. The image was grainy, but unmistakable. A girl in white. Young. Standing on the street, looking up at their window. The timestamp confirmed it. The figure was translucent enough to see through, but solid enough to cast a shadow. Marco's hands shook holding the photo. Madonna! Isabella's not at peace. Whatever dispersed, it's trying to reintegrate. Trying to tell me something. Sophia started walking toward the Vatican entrance. And I'm going to find out what. By walking into the place that murdered your ancestor? That's insane. It's family tradition. Sophia smiled without humor. The Santori women have been insane for 200 years. Why stop now? The Vatican security tried to turn her away at the gate. Sophia pulled out credentials that had taken 3 years and 40,000 euros in bribes to obtain. Academic researcher, verified. Authorized access to restricted archives. The guard made a phone call. Another. Finally waved her through with a look that said she was walking to her death and he wasn't responsible. Inside the Vatican was exactly as photographs showed. Magnificent. Overwhelming. Built to make humans feel small and God feel infinite. Sophia had been here before as a tourist, but never with authorization to access the restricted levels. Never with a folder full of evidence that could bring the entire institution down. A priest met her in the entrance hall. Young, nervous. "Miss Russo, I'm Father Alessandro. I'll be escorting you today. May I ask what you're researching? Papal succession rituals, 15th through 18th centuries." That's quite specific. My dissertation focuses on continuity of authority in religious institutions. Sophia smiled brightly. Fascinating stuff if you're into ecclesiology. Father Alessandro didn't look convinced, but led her through corridors tourists never saw, down marble halls lined with portraits of popes going back centuries, past doors marked in Latin she couldn't read, through security checkpoints where guards examined her credentials with increasing suspicion. Finally, they reached an elevator. Ancient, iron cage. Father Alessandro inserted a key and turned it 3 times. The restricted archives are on sub-level 4. I'll need to stay with you at all times. And Miss Russo, his voice dropped. Some documents are restricted for reasons beyond historical sensitivity. If you see something disturbing, please don't ask me to explain it. I won't have answers that will satisfy you. The elevator descended. Sophia counted floors. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it kept going. 5, 6, 7. I thought you said sub-level 4. I did. We're at sub-level 7. Father Alessandro's face was pale. The archives you requested were moved. Last week. I don't know why. I just received updated instructions this morning. The elevator stopped at sub-level 9. The doors opened onto a corridor Sophia recognized from photographs in her grandmother's collection. Stone walls, low ceiling, ancient beyond measure. The corridor that led to the 13th chamber. This isn't the archives. Sophia's voice came out steady despite her heart hammering. I know what this is. Father Alessandro stepped out, gestured for her to follow. And I'm sorry, truly, but orders come from very high up and I have a family to protect. Sophia's hand found the knife in her jacket pocket. The knife Maria had given Isabella. The knife the witnesses had recovered and passed down through 7 generations. So this was a trap. This was an invitation. A new voice, old, tired. A man stepped from the shadows at the corridor's end. He looked maybe 60, but his eyes were ancient. Hello, Sophia. I've been expecting you. She knew that face from photographs. Older now, lined with centuries of guilt. Matteo della Rovere. Former cardinal, current penance seeker, eternal coward. He smiled without joy. Pick whichever title fits. They're all accurate. You're supposed to be dead. The witnesses reported your death 40 years ago. The witnesses reported what I wanted them to report. Turns out when you're cursed with immortality, faking your death is surprisingly easy. He gestured down the corridor. Walk with me, please. I promise you're safe. Father Alessandro is here as witness, not threat. If I wanted you dead, you'd never have made it past the gate. Sophia didn't move. Why am I here? Because Isabella is trying to come back, and we need to stop her. The words hit like a punch. What? The dispersal wasn't complete. Couldn't be complete. She'd held the seal for too long, merged too deeply with the binding. When she dissolved, pieces remained. And those pieces have been slowly, inexorably pulling themselves back together. Matteo started walking. For 20 years I've been monitoring it, measuring it, trying to prevent it. But 3 weeks ago, the reconstitution accelerated. Something triggered it. Sophia thought of the dreams, the figure at her window. What triggered it? You did, by deciding to expose the ritual publicly, by compiling evidence, by preparing to finish what Maria started. Matteo stopped at a door marked with symbols Sophia couldn't read. Isabella can sense it. She knows someone's finally going to tell the truth, and she wants to help. So let her help. You don't understand. If Isabella fully reconstitutes, if she becomes corporeal again, the thing comes with her. They merged during the ritual reversal, their consciousness intertwined. You can't separate them now. Matteo's voice shook. If Isabella returns, Requiem returns. And this time, there's no binding to contain it. Sophia's blood ran cold. You're saying my ancestor is possessed, not possessed, fused. They're one being now split across dimensional barriers. Bring back one, you bring back both. He opened the door. Beyond it, the 13th chamber. Still sealed, but showing cracks. Look, see for yourself. The chamber was exactly as the documents described. Circular, ancient, but the cracks in the floor were new and glowing. Soft white light seeping through like dawn through curtains. And in that light, shapes moved. A girl's silhouette. And something else. Something vast and indefinable, coiled around her like smoke. She's trying to break through. Matteo's voice was barely a whisper. Every night at 3 a.m., the hour of her greatest suffering during the binding, she pushes against the barrier, getting stronger each time. Then we help her through. We separate them once she's corporeal. We tried that 20 years ago when she first started reconstituting. We brought in exorcists, binding specialists, metaphysical surgeons. None of it worked. They're too intertwined. Their consciousnesses have become one thing. Matteo turned to Sophia. There's only one way to stop Isabella from returning and bringing Requiem with her. What's that? You have to convince her to stop trying. You're her family, her blood. If anyone can reach her, it's you. Sophia looked at the glowing cracks, at the silhouette that had her ancestors' shape. And if I can't convince her, then I have to destroy what's left of her, permanently, before she breaks through and dooms us all. Matteo pulled something from his coat. A gun, old, ornate. This belonged to the Pope's personal guard in 1503. It's been blessed by 12 different holy men and loaded with bullets forged from the melted down medallions of the binding. It's the only weapon that might work. You'd kill her after everything she sacrificed. To save the world. Yes. His eyes were infinite sadness. I've spent 200 years trying to atone. This is my last chance. Either I save Isabella from herself, or I end her before she can destroy everything she died to protect. Sophia's mind raced. Give me 3 days. Let me try to reach her. You have 1 day. Tomorrow night at midnight, the barrier weakens completely. She'll either break through, or I'll stop her. Those are the only options left. Fine. 1 day. Sophia moved towards the glowing cracks. Isabella? Can you hear me? The silhouette stopped moving, turned towards Sophia's voice. My name is Sophia Russo. I'm Maria's great-great-great-great-granddaughter. Your sister's legacy. Your blood. Sophia knelt by the cracks, ignoring Matteo's warning to stay back. If you can understand me, if any part of you is still human, I need you to listen. The truth about the ritual is going to be exposed. Maria's network, the witnesses, we've spent 2 centuries gathering evidence. We're ready to release everything. Your sacrifice won't be forgotten. Ever. You don't need to come back. You can rest. The silhouette pressed closer to the barrier. Sophia felt cold seeping through the cracks, felt something vast and curious examining her. Then words, not spoken, appearing in the frost spreading across the chamber floor. They'll hide it again. They can't. We have too much proof. Testimony from 12 freed girls. Matteo's confession. Giovanni's research. 200 years of documentation. Sophia's voice strengthened. Isabella, you won. The ritual is gone. The cycle is broken. You can let go. The frost words melted. New ones appeared. Requiem once out. I know, but you're stronger than it. You held it for 2 centuries. You can keep holding it. I'm tired. The words broke Sophia's heart. 3 simple words carrying the weight of centuries. I know you are. God, I know. But if you come back, if you bring it with you, everything you fought for is wasted. Millions could die, maybe more. Sophia pressed her hand to the crack. The cold burned. Please, stay sealed. Stay resting. Let us finish the fight for you. The silhouette pulled back. For a moment, Sophia thought she'd gotten through. Then more words appeared and they made her blood freeze. Too late. Already breaking. The cracks widened. The light brightened. Something pushed from below, testing the barrier with immense pressure. Matteo raised the gun. Sophia, move away from the door. Wait, now. Sophia scrambled back as the barrier shattered. Light exploded outward, blinding. When it cleared, 2 figures stood in the chamber. Isabella, corporeal, 23 years old, dark hair, green eyes, exactly as the photographs showed her. And behind her, through her, intertwined with her something else. Requiem, no longer old and mortal, but vast and terrible and hungry. They spoke with two voices layered into one. Sophia Russo, Maria's blood, we've waited for you. Matteo's gun didn't waver. Isabella, fight it. Push it back. We're not separate anymore, Matteo. We haven't been for 20 years. Isabella smiled, and it was beautiful and horrible at once. When I dispersed, I didn't dissolve. I merged. Completely. We became something new. Then you're not Isabella anymore. We're more than Isabella. We're what she became. What she had to become to survive. The dual voice softened. Don't look so terrified. We're not here to destroy anything. We're here to finish what we started. By releasing an ancient evil into the world. Matteo's finger tightened on the trigger. By exposing the corruption that feeds it. Isabella Requiem moved forward. Matteo fired. The bullet passed through them like smoke. Those medallions won't hurt us. We're beyond physical damage now. She turned to Sophia. You have evidence. 2 centuries of crimes. Ready to publish? Sophia nodded, unable to speak. Good. Then we'll testify. Both of us. Isabella Santori's consciousness still aware, still fighting. And Requiem, formerly a demon, now choosing redemption. Together we'll tell the world exactly what the Vatican has been hiding. They'll never believe it, Father Alessandro whispered from the doorway. They will, when we prove it. Isabella Requiem raised her hand. The chamber's walls began to glow symbols, appearing the same symbols from the binding, the same ones hidden in Giovanni's paintings. Every wall in the Vatican is marked with containment wards. We can make them visible, make them undeniable, physical proof of the supernatural that the Church has been suppressing for 2 millennia. Matteo lowered the gun. You're not here to destroy. You're here to expose. We're here to finish Isabella's fight and begin Requiem's atonement. The Church wanted us to be a door. Instead, we became a witness. The dual voice rang with determination. Sophia, are you ready to publish everything? Yes, but will it be enough? Will people believe? They'll believe when they see us, when they hear our testimony, when we show them proof that can't be denied or hidden or buried. Isabella Requiem extended her hand. We're the evidence they can't suppress, the victim who refused to stay buried. Sophia took the offered hand. It felt solid and insubstantial at once, like holding fog that had weight. What do you need from me? Your voice, your platform, your refusal to be silenced. Isabella Requiem pulled her close. Maria spent 40 years fighting. You've spent 20 preparing. Now we fight together. The living and the dead. The human and the divine. The proof they can't destroy. Over the following months, the truth spilled out in waves. Sophia published her evidence. Isabella Requiem gave testimony at a tribunal that sent shockwaves through every religious institution worldwide. The 12 freed girls added their voices, their stories, their fury. The Vatican tried to deny it, tried to claim mass delusion, tried to suppress the footage of Isabella Requiem, making the chamber's wards visible proof of supernatural containment that couldn't be explained away. But Maria's network was too large. The witnesses were too organized. And Isabella Requiem was too undeniable a woman who died 2 centuries ago, reconstituted, with the very demon she'd been sacrificed to, now demanding justice for every girl who'd been fed to darkness in the name of faith. The tribunal lasted 2 years. By its end, 43 high-ranking church officials were arrested. 70 more resigned. The entire structure of papal succession was reformed with oversight and transparency measures that made future rituals impossible. And Isabella Requiem. She testified at every session, her dual voice, unwavering her memory. Perfect her presence, impossible to deny or dismiss. On the final day of the tribunal, Sophia asked her the question everyone wanted answered. What happens now? Do you disperse again? Return to rest? Isabella. Requiem smiled. We're staying. We've discovered something during these 2 years. The merger that we thought was a curse, it's actually a gift. We can help people. Living proof that sacrifice can transform into power. That victims can become victors. That even ancient evils can choose redemption.
Maurice,
So you're staying in the world. We're staying until every girl who was taken, every victim who was silenced, every crime that was hidden, all of it is exposed. All of it is addressed. All of it is remembered. The jewel voice rang like bells. We're not a door anymore. We're not a seal. We're a witness who can never be silenced. A testimony that can never die. How long will that take? However long it takes. We have time. We have purpose. We have each other. Isabella Requiem looked at Sophia with eyes that held centuries. And we have Maria's descendants carrying the fight forward, making sure the next generation never forgets what happened here. Sophia felt tears burning. My grandmother would be proud. She is proud. We've seen her, Sophia, in the places between life and death. She's waiting there with the others, 12 girls who found peace, one sister who never stopped fighting, one painter who documented truth, one nun who finally escaped. The jewel voice softened. They're all waiting to welcome us when this work is finally done. But not yet. Not until justice is complete. The tribunal ended. Reforms were implemented. The 13th chamber was destroyed, completely reduced to rubble, every stone examined and documented and scattered to prevent any future use. But on the anniversary of Isabella's original sacrifice, September 29th, something remarkable happened. The rubble glowed, just for a moment, just at dawn. And in that glow, 13 white flowers bloomed. Not in the sealed chamber anymore. In every church where a girl had been taken, in every city where a family had lost a daughter, in every place that had been touched by the ritual's darkness. 13 flowers, blooming impossibly, vanishing by noon. Physical proof that could be photographed, studied, verified. Annual reminder that could never be suppressed or explained away. Isabella Requiem appeared at each location on each anniversary, sometimes visible, sometimes felt, always present, always witnessing, ensuring that memory lived on. Sophia continued her work, published 7 books, founded an institute dedicated to documenting religious abuse, trained a new generation of witnesses to carry on the fight. And every year on September 29th, she stood in the ruins of what had been the 13th chamber and left flowers of her own. Jasmine like the night Isabella was summoned. On Sophia's 60th birthday, 40 years after the binding broke, Isabella Requiem appeared at her apartment at 3 a.m. Sophia woke to find the jewel figure standing at her window. "Is it time?" Sophia asked. No fear, just quiet acceptance. "Not for you. You have decades left. We came to say thank you." Isabella Requiem sat on the edge of the bed. The work is complete. Every girl has been remembered. Every crime has been exposed. Every reform has been implemented. The cycle is truly broken now, permanently. So you're finally going to rest. We're going to transform, again, into something new. The jewel voice was peaceful. We've learned that consciousness doesn't end. It just changes. We're ready for the next change, ready to become what comes after witness, after testimony, after justice. What comes after peace, real peace, the kind that embraces all the broken pieces and makes them whole again. Isabella Requiem smiled. "Tell our story, Sophia. Keep telling it. Make sure the next generation knows that one girl's refusal can break centuries of corruption, that stubbornness matters, that saying no when everyone demands yes is the most powerful thing a human can do." "I will. I promise." "We know. You're Maria's blood. Promises are currency in this family." Isabella Requiem began to fade. "One last thing. Tell them we weren't heroes. We were just angry. Angry girls who refused to die quietly. Angry enough to change the world. Is that what you want to be remembered as?" "That's what we are. What we'll always be. Angry, stubborn, unwilling to accept what we're told is inevitable." The jewel voice was almost gone now. That's the legacy, not sacrifice, not martyrdom, fury, and the refusal to let fury die. They dispersed. Finally. Completely. Not into fragments this time, but into something that felt like resolution. Like a story ending exactly where it should. Sophia watched the dawn break through her window and smiled. The work wasn't finished, would never be completely finished. But it was enough. Isabella had given her testimony. Requiem had found its redemption. The ritual was exposed, destroyed, remembered. And somewhere in the places between life and death, 12 girls who'd been doors were finally peacefully entirely human again. One sister, who'd never stopped fighting, was reunited with the girl she'd lost. One painter could show his mother that her 40 years of research had saved countless lives. And one stubborn girl from Florence who'd been dragged down stone steps in a white dress had finally, after 2 centuries, earned the right to stop fighting, to rest, to be at peace. But her story, their story, the story of every girl who'd been taken, and the family who refused to forget that story would live forever, not as tragedy, as triumph. The triumph of one person saying no when the world demanded yes, and meaning it so completely that centuries of corruption shattered against that single stubborn, magnificent refusal. That was the legacy. That was the truth Isabella Santori died to protect and lived to witness. And that truth would never die.